All right, everybody. First of all, shut up. All right? It's the first part. Then you're going to produce, sacrifice, and hate. If you can understand all four of those things, then you would have done a great job being a patriotic American during World War II. In this segment, focusing on USHC 7.2, we are going to focus on the American home front and what's going on there, looking through the lens of the propaganda campaign. All right? So, Japan attacks Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, and the United States has entered this war on the side of the Allies with Britain and the Soviet Union. And we are preparing for total war, all right? And when you're preparing for total war, everyone has to participate. This is not just a matter of people who are fighting versus people who are not. Everyone is fighting. This means you. Uncle Sam says put your phone down or away or whatever. So, first of all, shut your mouth, especially you ladies. Now, keep in mind, we're going to see a lot of racial and gender stereotypes that would not really be accessible today, especially on government propaganda documents. But what we see here is that she is just engaging in careless talk. That is a no-no. So, first of all, shut up. Shut your mouth and your ears, all right? If you hear enemy propaganda, don't listen to that mess, all right? And don't listen to propaganda against Catholics, Jews, and Protestants, you know, all that anti-Protestant propaganda that was doubtlessly going around the United States at that time. And really, please, just don't start a forest fire. Like, that's just, I mean, you're just helping Hitler. Just don't do that. And so the war economy, all right, so the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to produce, and we're going to need to put all of our energy into production and crack those Axis nuts, all right? And the government is going to regulate production, pricing, and rationing. And we see here the War Production Board is converting peacetime industries to war production. And we can see there a good soldier sticks to his post, and that includes soldiers of production. So if you are working in a factory, you are a soldier. You are a soldier of production. Corporations, here's Texaco, all right, which if you were going to work at Texaco, there is a Japanese fella telling you, go ahead, please, take day off. All right. And this is saying that, like, look, if you just take the day off to go fishing or whatever, you are not doing your patriotic duty. We might lose this war because of you. Rosie the Riveter was symbolic of female munitions workers. All right. Now, I had something here about, labor unions pledging not to strike. I probably should have addressed that on a slide, but that was passed over. So labor unions pledged not to strike during wartime. All right, Rosie the Riveter becomes this icon for female munitions workers. And FDR's Executive Order 8802 prohibited discrimination by any company receiving a government defense contract. So not discrimination in general, but at least if you are getting a government defense contract, then you have to hire people regardless of their race. And so we see, kind of a preview of equal opportunity employment. And then the Office of Price Administration set price ceilings, all right? So that's what we see on that. All right, and then we see immigrants from Mexico provided necessary farm labor. Sacrifice. In addition to prioritizing production, you've got wage and price controls, all right? Mandatory rationing. You see here these prices. You've got a price for everything down to pork and beans and 2 eggs and all of that stuff. That is evaluated by the government, and you better not be charging more than that. And keep in mind that the rationing this time, it is not voluntary like during World War I. World War I propaganda encouraged you to ration. Here, you are going to be forced to ration. So food is a weapon. Don't waste it. And we see here somebody's ration book. And there is a huge fine for somebody that is misusing their ration stamps. So just don't use somebody else's ration stamps. It could get you in some pretty big trouble. And then when you look at hate, all right, what's going on here? All right, now keep in mind also the war bonds and that sort of thing. But hating, now this is the enemy. This is the enemy. All right, we see a Nazi stabbing a Bible. We see a Japanese man about to stab a woman in the back. And we see here that the use of the word Jap, which is used everywhere from pop propaganda to, Popeye and all of that kind of stuff. So stay on the job until every murdering Jap is wiped out. I mean, some very, very harsh language here. And language that impacts people who are American citizens of Asian descent. And we see here on this storefront where this person put this sign, "I am an American," that because of this propaganda, people are looking askance at anyone who looks Japanese and presumes them to be sympathetic to the Japanese. And this leads to a wave of hysteria on the West Coast, leading to Japanese American internment. Now, we talk about internment camps. If somebody else did it, we might call them concentration camps or something like that. What that literally is taking people, put them into one place. But we don't like to use that kind of language. And we see here that these are horse stalls that have been converted into temporary housing for Japanese Americans, not immigrants or foreign nationals, but Japanese American citizens who are waiting to go to a permanent camp. And in Korematsu versus the United States, Fred Korematsu, an American citizen, sued and said that the United States government has no constitutional right to intern me as an American citizen just because of my ethnicity. And the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the internment of Japanese Americans does not violate the Constitution. Of course, voting in the majority, Hugo Black, a former member of the Ku Klux Klan. But this is one of those really three infamous decisions, all right, when you think about Dred Scott, Plessy v. Ferguson. Korematsu versus the United States would be another one. Now, eventually, you see here, Ronald Reagan signed the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 that granted reparations to victims of Japanese internment and their descendants, I should say. So in a nutshell, if you want to help with the war effort, not that you have a choice in the matter, shut up, produce, sacrifice, and don't forget to hate. We'll get into the war in just a second. See you in a bit.